Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Sierra, and I'm going to be showing you how I got this makeup look that I did in my first popular video on this channel. It's kind of like this sunset inspired eyeshadow look, very glowy, very bronzy, and I think it is absolutely beautiful on brown skin or really any skin tone. I think it is also super beginner friendly because I consider myself a beginner. I didn't use any foundation, and it's rather quick for a full face of makeup, in my opinion. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy and let me know what you think. I think any makeup look looks best when your eyebrows are freshly groomed. Mine aren't, so I just did a little touch up on my own by myself. I went in with a razor the night before to kind of shape them up myself, and this morning I'm giving them a little touch up to kind of trim any hairs that are a little too long. I then go in and do a quick job of, I guess you could call it like a dry dermaplaning, but I'm going in with my razor to now shave my face because if you don't already know, I use minoxidil on the temples and my edges to regrow that hair. And one side effect of minoxidil is that it causes a lot of very fast and very thick hair growth on other parts of your body, including my face. So I want my makeup application to be as smooth as possible. So I'm going to do just a quick job to make it as smooth as I can by shaving my face. It might look like I'm doing this harshly, but I am doing it very gently because I don't want to cut myself. I wanted to go in and shape my eyebrows one more time just to make sure they're as precise and exact and shapely as possible. I started with my Baby Skin by Maybelline primer. This is my favorite primer, and I just did my skincare, just a wash, this Snail Mucin Power Essence, this La Roche-Posay moisturizer, this sunscreen, and all of that leaves my face looking very shiny by the end of it. And this does a really good job to just kind of mattify all of that while still leaving a very moisturized glow. I don't often do a full face of makeup. I usually do what I call a half beat, which you can find here. But whether it's a full face or a half face, I always like to start by concealing my dark spots because I'm not much of a foundation girly. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in the shade 50. I feel like it is a pretty close match, so that's what I use to just cover my dark spots. I have some acne scars on my cheek and some under my chin where I have a really bad habit of plucking my hairs because, like I said, minoxidil, and I just go in and touch those up, cover those up with a little bit of concealer over every spot. I don't know why, but I started tearing up in the middle of it, probably because I had the fan blasting. After this step alone, I just have a much more flat and smooth and even tone base. I do like to go in with the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in 35 because with it being winter, my skin is on the lighter side, so I just like to cool it down a bit and lighten it up just a tad so it can really be a super close match. I did change my mind and go in with this Huda Beauty concealer in this color to just touch it up even more and to make it even closer to my current skin tone because I felt like it was looking a little bit dark. Okay, girl, you don't need to add that much. I also always use a lighter shade like this Huda Beauty concealer to go in between my eyebrows because I have some redness right there from some previous acne and acne scarring. And then I'm going to go back in with Maybelline 50 around the corners of my nose because I have some really annoying hypopigmentation right there. I don't know why, but I've had that since I was like a teenager, and if anyone knows how to get rid of it, please help me out. Now I'm finally getting into the things that I normally wouldn't do for a half beat that I am going to do for a full face of makeup, which is using my concealer to cover my under eye bags and circles. Normally I just kind of leave that out because then it's like really committing to a full face of makeup, but just covering my acne scars really makes it a lot more natural, and I feel like I can get away with not doing the entire full face routine of highlighting and contouring and brush and highlighter and lashes, maybe even a wing and an eyeshadow. When I add makeup under my eyes, I feel like now it is a full face, and I now have to figure out how I'm going to contour my nose. And on days that I'm not trying to do all of that, concealing just my dark and my light spots does the trick. But this takes it to another level, so this is where we're really getting into a full face. I'm using this Milani Make It Last Matte Setting Spray to spritz my velvet puff, and I'm going to use that to blend all of the concealer. I don't know why I thought all puffs were created equally, but they are not. This one like pills and sheds and flakes off a lot, and it just doesn't do a good job blending. I really did not know they could vary in quality because it's all just like velvet. But no, as you can see, the first several like pats that I did to my face, it just like was not blending out the concealer, and I have to really work to get it to blend out more seamlessly. I still need to replace these with a higher quality puff, but in the meantime, it gets the job done. And when I do it to this other side of my face, in the end, it looks very smooth, very skin-like, very natural. Went in with a little bit more of that Maybelline 50 Fit Me concealer to make it super full coverage. I do not want any gray or darkness to peek through. I normally probably wouldn't even have to spritz my blender if this was just a better blender in the first place, but to make the makeup more movable and more blendable, I'm gonna take now like the bottom of one of those blenders to get my forehead. I hate putting makeup on my forehead, so I normally skip this step, but if I'm doing a full face, I'm gonna do a full face. So any redness, any lightness, any darkness, I'm gonna cover that to all make it one color. This is another reason I prefer concealer to foundation for this base of getting it one flat color, because then I can mix it up to make sure everything is covered properly to really look like one flat blank canvas. I then went in using this iSeek eyeshadow palette that I got from Amazon. I used a dark warm brown to just kind of line my upper lid. And then from there, I kind of faded out that color, working my way up. The goal is to kind of create a like sunset kind of look, to kind of create an ombre, with the darkest being at the bottom of your lid at the lash line and the lightest being towards your brow and your brow bone. So I'm starting off with this deep, warm chocolatey brown only at the lash line to kind of create a line, and then fading it and smoking it upwards. I'm doing this by using less and less pressure as I'm blending it up. Don't be afraid to go in and use your fingers and use your hands to help you blend it up to make it look seamless. This brush that I'm using is quite small, so it's not going to do a great job of blending a large area like the entire lid, as opposed to just my lash line, which is what I used it for. So I kind of use it to go in with a slightly lighter shade of brown to cover my lid, but then I'm letting my fingers do the work to cover more lid space and to blend it upward. And I'm fading it by taking advantage of the lack of product I have underneath my brow. I'm now using a super light beige and a peachy tone to kind of add that underneath my brow, and then I'm going to do my best to blend the three colors together to make them look seamless, but still in order of lightest to darkest from up to down. I'm also not packing on a ton of product onto my brush. Then we're going back in with some more wet products. Notice that I haven't done my brows yet. I used to start with my brows, but I think the later you do your brows, the more naturally they look. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. I'm going back in with that Huda color that I used in between my brows, and I'm adding just a bit because this has a lot of coverage and a little bit goes a long way. I'm adding a little bit to the corners of my eyes, a little bit to the outer part of my under eye, and then I'm going to go in and add just even less in between those two in order to connect where I put product. Going in with a fresh, clean, never used before velvet puff to blend that outwards. I'm not going to drag it down. I'm really going to think about bringing it out. But as I'm doing this, the point is to get rid of any harsh lines. This concealer should melt seamlessly into your foundation, or in my case, concealer. Again, it's also kind of an ombre effect, with the brightest and lightest part being the closest to your under eye, and it should get gradually darker towards your cheekbone in the lower half of your face. I'm using tiny little patting motions. I'm not at all dragging it because I don't want to wipe away the product. I'm also not patting too hard because, again, I don't want to lift and remove any product. I'm really just pressing it into my face with tiny, quick little pats. As you can see, my under eyes are lighter than the rest of my face, but you can't tell exactly where it stops because there's no harsh line indicating a division between my under eye highlight and my skin tone / concealer, maybe in your case, foundation. I'm going to add a tiny strip down the center of my nose. I'm going to, oddly enough, bring back that natural hypopigmentation that I have outside of the corners of my nose and add just a little bit there. I'm going to add a dot above my lip, a dot below my chin, and a little bit beneath my cheekbones. I'm then going to use that same concealer to add a little bit more product under my eyes for more coverage. I kind of already highlighted my forehead before we even started this, so I'm not really going to worry too much about that. Pressing the product into my skin. I'm highlighting these features in these parts of my face to make them stand out and so that they attract light, so that they're more visible. The parts that I'm going to go in with contouring, well, I'm not going to contour in this video, I don't think, but the parts that I'm going to go in with bronzer are going to act more as a shadow to make those look more sunken into my face. And by highlighting and contouring, or in my case, highlighting and bronzing, that's what's going to add dimension to my face and not make me look so flat. I'm going to add a touch, just a tiny bit of red or really orange color corrector from Huda Beauty because I felt like my under eye was starting to look a little bit gray. I also added just a tiny bit of Maybelline 50, that darker, more warm shade of brown that I used to cover all of my acne scars in the beginning. The grayness under your eyes can just come from using a concealer shade that's too light or too cool toned. I'm then going in with this powder from Huda Beauty, and I'm going to use that to kind of powder the outside of my nose slash inside of my eye, and to not exactly bake, but to kind of set those concealers in place. Even though I'm not baking, there's a clear differentiation between where my bronzer is going to go and where I want the highlighter to go, to again add that definition and dimension to my face. I love this part, it's so pretty. It's also adding a little bit more coverage to all that concealer we just added. Same thing to the other eye. This time I did add a little bit more that you can actually see it, but I'm going to keep pressing and keep blending until it completely disappears and you can't see the powder at all. I'm going to use the tiniest, slightest bit of powder to then set the rest of my face, not as much as I used underneath my eye because I don't want the actual color of the powder to show when I'm setting the rest of my face. I'm then going to bring some more definition to my eyes and really make them pop by adding the two darkest shades of brown that I used as eyeshadow to not really my waterline, but the skin right outside of the waterline. So not the part that touches the eyeball. It should still be like actual skin. Then I go in with a small fluffy brush from Sephora and I dip it into this bronzer by Maybelline in the shade Java. And I'm going to very lightly dust it along the sides of my nose. I really only do it to bring the definition and dimension back to my face. I don't necessarily want to make my nose look way slimmer. I really just want to make sure my nose is still like prominent, stands out, and doesn't disappear into the rest of my face and make my face look super flat. And then this is where I'm going in with a little bit more powder on kind of the insides of my under eye and also the outside of my nose, that little area right there. Here it is kind of more of a baking technique, and here is where I'm using enough powder that to create kind of like that line going down my nose to kind of re-emphasize the definition that I'm trying to bring, to make sure my nose just doesn't get lost. I'm really working that powder puff to both apply and blend in that powder, and I want it to blend seamlessly to kind of melt right into my under eye. This is going to be like very oddly out of order because I just do my makeup in a way that makes sense to me, and you should too. There are going to be thousands of videos online telling you that this is the right way, that's the wrong way, and those rules are just going to change and evolve all the time over time as trends and products come and go. So don't let even the best of makeup artists tell you that there is only ever going to be one way to do something correctly. Whatever feels best and most comfortable and most natural for you is probably what's going to look best on your face. Of course, there are techniques you can use and things you can do to improve your makeup application. But at the end of the day, if it feels best for you to do your eyebrows before your complexion, then do your eyebrows before your complexion. If it makes more sense for you to do powder underneath your wet products, then do that. At the end of the day, you are the one applying your makeup, so it has to be something that makes sense. To fill in my brows, I'm going in with this Maybelline pencil. It's in the darkest shade. I'm only, and I mean only, going to very lightly fill in any sparse areas. I'm not going to draw the entire shape and then rely on the concealer to clean it up. In order to get the most natural effect, I'm going to pay close attention where I can see the skin between my brow hairs and then just fill that in with the pencil to make it look like there's hair there. If I try to fill in the whole entire brow with product darkness and pressure, then they're going to end up looking too dark, too thick, and too big. I'm really only, and I mean only, well, mostly, going to focus my product on the areas that are sparse or bare or don't have any hair. This is why I say grooming your brows before makeup, which of course isn't always feasible for everybody, but if you're able to, is the best option, because then you don't have to draw a shape and then clean it up. The shape is already there. And now that you're applying the makeup, your only job is to enhance that shape, whether it means drawing tiny, light, faint hair-like strokes wherever it's needed on your brow for those sparse areas, or if it means to just clean it up with a little bit of concealer because you already have thick, dark brows. So jealous of you if you do. And all you need is to make them look even more precise and exact with the right concealer and with the right concealer application. In my case, I feel like my brows are fine. I really like the shape. I like the thickness. I like how dark they are. I just like them to be a cleaner version of how they are naturally when I don't do anything to them. I normally get them threaded, but because I just kind of like shave them down to their proper shape and trim them down to their proper shape, all I really wanted to do is enhance that by filling in any sparse areas. Even this, I feel like, is a good brow job that I did, but still not perfect. Another thing I don't like are super exact, precise brows that are like harsh and a little like Bratz dolly, if that makes sense. I'm okay with there being a little fluff, a little naturalness to my brows. I really like how Tyla does her brows, where they're a beautiful shape, but they're never exactly perfect and they never quite look drawn on or painted on. That's kind of what I go for, just an enhanced version of what is already on my face. I'm really passionate about brows, if you cannot tell. I have a whole eyebrow tutorial where I talk about everything that I know and use when doing my brows in a lot of detail on my channel. I'm going back in with that same color that I used to highlight to clean up under my brow. I cannot emphasize enough how you do not need to use a ton of concealer when cleaning up your brows. I do not at all want to do my brows or clean up my brows in a way that it draws more attention to the cleanup than the actual brows. So I'm only going to use just enough concealer to clean up the brows. And if you focus it right underneath the brow or right on top of the brow, I'm not going to carve out my brows on top of my brow. I'm only going to focus underneath, but I'm only using just enough to clean it up and make it even more precise. And it doesn't take a lot of product to do that. And yes, I'm using that concealer to clean up my brows even after doing my eyeshadow. It's not going to hurt. That's kind of one of the benefits of using just as much product as you need. If I was the type to really pack on that concealer when cleaning up my brows, then yeah, that could be problematic. But because I use just as much as I need to cover any mistakes I made when filling in my brows, then it looks undetectable and even still blends so naturally and so seamlessly into my shadow. And it kind of re-emphasizes that sunset effect that I was going for with my eyeshadow. But I'm not much of a contour person. Every time I've tried to contour, it's looked like crazy. In order to get the subtle effect that I always look for, I like to just kind of do bronzer. When I get better at contour, maybe that's when I'll try it. But I'm going in with this Maybelline bronzer in the shade Java. I'm going to just lightly dust it onto the Sephora brush and focus it on the perimeter of my face. And when I'm doing my cheekbones, I'm putting that product on top of my cheekbones, not underneath. That's what's going to give my face a very lifted effect. This, like I was saying earlier, is what's really going to make my face look sculpted and snatched and not so flat and one-dimensional. After using that fluffy brush and the bronzer to lightly dust it on my face and bring in some dimension, I'm going to add blush, or quote unquote blush. One thing about me, I don't know why, but I refuse to ever use actual blush to rouge my face. It's always either like an orange color correct or a purple lipstick like you're seeing here, or an eyeshadow. I don't know. I have one blush, but I don't like it, and since buying that one, I've never bought another one. So I just use whatever is within reach. And today it was this pinkish, purplish blush. Kind of messed up my application, but I still got it to work. I sprayed it to wet the product a little bit with that setting spray, and I just lightly tapped and blended in that lipstick, but it was not budging. It was not going anywhere. So I had to spend forever to kind of press that into my cheek. And yeah, never doing that again. But now for the fun part, I'm moving on to lips. lips, I have these two brown liners. One I'm going to use to line my lips, and one I'm going to use in the waterline of my eye to bring even more shadow and dimension to my eyes. Because I'm going to do the lips first. Don't know why. Like I said, I just do it in whatever order I feel like. And I don't like to overline my lips at all. And I also don't like a super harsh line. I like for it to be a little feathered, a little soft. I want it to really just darken the perimeter of my lips and not really harshly line them. I'm using this really old, like pinkish, nudish, but still dark enough for dark skin liquid lipstick from Black Radiance that I got at, I don't know, maybe Walmart. And I'm going to use that on the center of my lips. Very pigmented. I absolutely love this. Now, this old, dirty, mixed in with a whole bunch of other makeup lip gloss is Maybelline's Moon lip gloss. Now, the original color is really pretty. It's a little light for me, but once I have it mixed in with all my other lip products, I actually really like it. And I'm going to blend the lip liner and the liquid lipstick into one another and add a little shine to my lips to go underneath my lip gloss to really make everything look seamless and blended and a little bit more like one color. Then this lip gloss from Hard Candy was, once again, just like the Maybelline gloss, was originally a clear color, but having mixed in with all of my lip liners, lipsticks, and colored lip glosses, it's now just kind of like this pinky brown mess, but I don't mind it. And it works great, sometimes even better than a clear gloss to top off my lip look. And that's how I get this kind of nude lip finished product. I did my mascara and setting spray off camera, but this is the final result. This is the finished product of this absolutely gorgeous kind of sunset eye, beautiful, natural, neutral, bronzy look that I think is great for any time of year. No foundation, so hopefully very beginner friendly because I consider myself still very much beginner, but this is the final result. And in case you were wondering, this super cute purple fluffy thing is a robe from Oodie. It is the softest, most fluffy, most luxurious feeling piece of clothing I've ever felt. I am in love with it. It's a pretty penny, but it's because it is the highest quality robe I've ever seen in my life. There is quite literally nothing like this robe. You can use this discount code Sierra Siler, or you can click the link in the description to get 15% off because you need this in your life. If you are a sleepwear fan, if you are a robe fanatic, or you like to be comfy, then this is something that should be hanging in your closet. Point blank, period. I'm so glad I discovered this brand. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I hope you have the most wonderful day. Bye. It's just urgent. Trying to make sense of little change, got me a war in my mind. It's